Cousteau family, please welcome Fabien Cousteau.
Bon dia, bonjour, hola, hello! It is an absolute thrill to be amongst all of you, you explorers of all walks of life. But before I start, I wanted to say a big thank you to the Explorers Club led by Richard, GLEX, and Manuel and his team for your intrepid adventurousness to making this happen, and of course, my team as well. All of you, thank you for allowing me to be part of this journey. I know it was not easy to get me here, so I really appreciate all the work that you've all done. Before any of you ask, I sound American, but I have a French passport. My mermaid friend stole my accent. So here we are. The ocean has been my classroom for a very long time. I've been scuba diving since the ripe old age of 4 years old, and on expeditions since I heard someone no, don't do that to your kids. It's not good for their brains. It explains why I'm here. As Richard had mentioned, some of you may have been in Porto for the first part of GLEX. And if you heard Michael from Axiom talk, he was talking about the new space station, which is extremely exciting, especially in light of what I'd like to share with you today. He was talking about a tool which we are sorely lacking in ocean exploration. And I believe that there's a similar approach that we need to have to fill in that missing gap in the toolbox of ocean exploration. Now, while it may seem that there are a lot of differences in ocean and space, it's amazing to me how many similarities are so unbelievably compelling. Both are vast, open, three-dimensional systems. We forget this, right? Three-dimensional systems. We're terrestrial beings. We're always talking about the two dimensions. And this plays a lot into our mentality and our disconnect with the ocean world. We think about it as this blue veneer. But both of these are largely unexplored. For humans to live and work in either place, we have to solve some of the most fundamental problems. For example, we have to provide food. As a French person, that's kind of important. We have to provide energy, of course, oxygen and water. Wow, that's a novel idea. I'd like to breathe too. Hygiene and Medicare, and of course, handling a lot of the waste problems that happen in a small community, and of course, a global community. And all of those problem-solving approaches, all of those alone can bring tremendous technology enhancements and solutions to both space and ocean, but also have fundamental implications for every single human being here on land, on this little planet called Earth. And with that, I think about this all the time. We've been looking at our planet in a very, very odd way. And this may be a trite thing to say in today's world with the advent of sharing on social media. But when you ask an astronaut, when they look back at this planet should not be called planet Earth. As a matter of fact, I'll even go as far as to say this planet shouldn't even be called planet Ocean. It should be called planet Oasis. Why? Because this is our life support system. This is paradise. This is our natural resource bank account from which we are eating away the capital, rather than learning how to live in symbiotic relationship and living off the interest that it bears and shepherding the natural resource capital so that our future generations could take advantage of what we've taken for granted. It's very simple. No ocean, no life. As a matter of fact, our ocean world represents virtually all life that we know, that we love, that we cherish, that we take advantage of, with, of course, deference to the tardigrades in space and a few space jockeys. And we know, or at least I'll postulate, that 99% of our world's living space is represented by the ocean, some 3.4 billion cubic kilometers of volume, within which about 90% of our world's biodiversity lives and thrives and depends on. More than 60% of the oxygen that we breathe sustains the life that we love. Now, the sea feeds more than 3 billion people per year. That's almost half of our, and decreasing, half of our population. It absorbs 25% of the carbon dioxide. So this is the world's greatest ally to climate change. I will flip that in a second for those educators out there who will yell at me for saying it. And yet, we take this for granted. We're here in Azores. Why do people come here? Well, during this upcoming break, I encourage you to go to the balcony and look out. It's not just the tangibles. It's also the intangibles that ocean gives to us, that sense of well-being. The things that we don't quantify in our daily lives, but the things that are so fundamentally important to nourishing our souls and recharging our batteries when we go on vacation or when we go on a stroll on the beach. Now, I promise I won't talk too much about the bad news, but I do have to mention this. We're facing some monumental challenges we don't even know yet. By 2050, there'll be more plastics than fish in the ocean. 95% of our coral reefs will have experienced all sorts of stresses of high thermal stress and potential bleaching. In other words, dead or dying. And currently, many of our apex species, billfish, sharks, etc., the traveling animals, the large apex predators, are down to less than 10% of their original numbers because ever since the advent of commercial fishing. These are fundamental challenges, and these are, if we focus too much on them, depressing. But that's not how we get people motivated. We get people motivated by breeding hope, by highlighting the proactive movements that are happening out there, by looking at new innovative approaches to empower our future generations to do better than we've done. And with this focus on health, it's not just about conservation, it's about opportunity. So when we look at space exploration and the amount that's been invested in space, $270 billion in just the last 10 years. Imagine the opportunities for businesses, for innovations, for new approaches, for a new balance to our life support system, if we could do the same for the oceans. In space, over 1,700 companies have been born from that investment. Why is it that something so fundamental to each and every one of us, whether we live on the ocean front or 1,000 kilometers away on a mountaintop, is not invested in the way we invest in space? Now, don't get me wrong. If there's a two-way ticket to Mars, I would love to explore the oceans of Mars. But this is still a very beautiful place we call home. And not all 8.7 billion will get to go into space or in the ocean anytime soon. Now, to me, one of the most important tools is missing, as I mentioned. The ability to live and work in situ, to establish a permanent presence underwater, just like the space station, that enables us to do saturation diving in the way astronauts do in space, to be able to live and work as aquanauts at the bottom of the sea. Now, how many of you scuba dive. Ah, look at this. This is probably the best number I've seen in a long time. There are about 3.5 million active scuba divers worldwide, so you're in a very elite group. But scuba diving has a very fundamental frustration for me, and hopefully you might share this thought as well. Just when things start getting interesting, you have to go back to the surface. It's always the case, yeah? The soap opera is unfolding in front of your very eyes. The battle of the octopus and the mantis shrimp. They go into a hole, you're sitting there waiting, and all of a sudden, you're not supposed to do that, by the way. You're supposed to keep some air in the tank. But the point is that scuba diving, the purpose is to avoid decompression obligations when you train as a recreational scuba diver. Saturation diving, in many ways, is exactly the opposite. And a subset of that is becoming an aquanaut. And because you, instead of staying 45 minutes to an hour at depth before coming to the surface to avoid decompression obligations, you stay down for days, weeks, months, possibly longer, and you let the environment saturate you with the gases you breathe so that you're in equilibrium with the undersea world. And what that does is it gives you unprecedented access to the bottom world, and that frustration melts away. You quite literally become part of the underwater community in this extreme environment. Now, this is a game changer. In 2014, I conceived of a mission that was deemed impossible. I hate that word. It is an excuse not to do anything. And so, with 5 other intrepid aquanauts, we went down and spent 31 days at the world's only remaining undersea marine laboratory, 9 miles offshore and 20,000 millimeters under the sea. And we ended up spending those 31 days to look at what we can do. There were 2 hypotheses. What kind of science can we do that's unique to saturation living and working? And does the world still care about the ocean? Well, thanks to saturation diving and becoming an aquanaut, we are able to do 10 to 12 hours of diving a day. Quite literally, that front door we had in an underwater habitat would allow us to venture off as often as we wanted to commune with nature, to be able to learn more about hydrocarbon pollution, to look at the predator-prey interactive behavior, and so on and so forth. And to test new technologies, to be able to look at new innovative approaches for camera technology, to look at the circadian rhythms of these intrepid aquanauts and how the lack of light changes our behavior. Imagine, excuse me, imagine if this was not allowed. Imagine if we didn't have something like this. A permanent presence underwater. What if Jane Goodall, yeah, you know Jane Goodall? I would hope so. I hear silence. That's not good. Jane would be very unhappy with you. Imagine if she could only spend 45 minutes in Gombe to visit the chimpanzees. What would happen today about our primates, our primate cousins? Perhaps that habitat would be fully destroyed, and our ignorance of its biological importance to humans would have been erased. This is where we are in ocean exploration. We are there. Now, after Mission 31, after looking at what we're able to do, not only were we able to do over 3 years worth of scientific research in 31 days, as opposed to diving down from the surface. 12 different disciplines, 12 different topics. But we were able to reach over 100,000 students live from Skype in the classroom from the bottom of the sea. It garnered over 34 billion unique media impressions. So the 2 hypotheses that we were testing proved to be highlights of why this kind of platform is so important for ocean exploration. But not only this, but imagine a state-of-the-art permanent underwater facility akin to the International Space Station that could drive that innovation, that blue economy that we're always talking about, to amplify storytelling, and to enable essential research and discoveries in situ. Instead of talking about it, why don't I show you a quick video?
Discovery Roger, go for deploy.
This is Houston, contact with a test 1.
Before it was reality,
2, 3.
the moon landing was just a dream,
Okay, we checked all 4 systems.
a wide-eyed idea
Sequence start.
that hardly anyone thought could come true,
3, 2, 1.
until it did.
That's one small step for man.
There was plenty of room for doubt along the way,
Where we are strong and where we are not.
but when a dream is audacious enough,
We choose to go to the moon.
nothing can vanquish it.
They hold the key to our future on Earth.
50 years later, we're embarking on the next great mission,
Go for deploy.
led by aquanaut Fabien Cousteau. A mission so daunting, it has forced many explorers to stand down. Inspired by their attempts, these brave men and women are picking up the torch. Meet the aquanauts, who dream to live and work deep below the ocean's surface. This is our generation's moon landing. This is Proteus, the world's most advanced underwater station to accelerate the most pressing oceanic research. Together, we'll venture deeper into the place where life began, and the place that has the potential to save life as we know it. Because the research and knowledge that we will uncover down here will forever change the way generations of humans live up here. Let's make history while saving the future. Let's make history with Proteus.
Wow. Now, thank you. I love the bass in here. That's better than coffee. We need to do our screening of Proteus movie when we come back. So, as you may have noticed, this teaser is not the newest teaser. And I will say to some of my intrepid colleagues here who have heard me talk about Proteus before, these are not the final renderings of Proteus. These are really more the eye candy for the general public and are temporary images. And I look forward to sharing this design with you, the actual design of Proteus, later this year. We are getting there very quickly, so I'm very excited about that. As a matter of fact, if we continue on this trajectory, because there was a question about this earlier, we will be in the water installing Proteus by the end of 2026. And that's... Thank you. I'm putting a little pressure on my CEO here. But this is very exciting because as a technology accelerated and collaborative platform, this platform is meant as the United Nations of the ocean to bring together astronauts, aquanauts, scientists, educators, and those who can use this tool as a platform of research and communications so that we can make this planet a better, healthier place for the generations to come. And we know that space will be a huge part of this, thanks to not only the size and potential applications, but to our partnerships, which I unfortunately don't have time to talk about today. Now, there it is. We are building more than one of these stations because of the demand that we've seen. The first one will be in Curaçao. But as you may see on this map, there may be a hint of a certain Western country in Europe that might be a good host for another one of these platforms. I will leave it at that for now, or I will get yelled at. Now, connecting this kind of network and working with space agencies, with NOAA, with the navies of the world, with other scientific organizations, both for and nonprofit, we'll be able to contribute to a network of undersea understanding to get a better finger on the pulse of oceanic health so that we can make better decisions and to predict things not hours or days in the future, but weeks, months, and possibly longer. This is an ideal testbed for scientific payloads and spacecraft subsystems, as well as all the undersea exploration that we talk about on a daily basis. This is an important site for psychological and physiological studies, including sleep. You know, it was mind-blowing to me during Mission 31 how our circadian rhythms were completely set off from that lack of sleep. So we need to study those psychological and physiological parameters in some of the most extreme environments, be it space or inner space. I will tell you that when we were saturated underwater, I was shocked at how quickly our hair grew, how our taste buds went numb. Thank God for that. Can you believe a Frenchman is saying, I'm glad I didn't have a sense of taste? But the astronaut food that we were eating was terrible. I don't know how you guys do it. Hopefully, we'll have better catering on the next International Space Station of the Sea. As I mentioned, the first location will be Curaçao. Why Curaçao? Because of their enthusiasm, because it is one of the last remaining accruing coral reefs in the entire Caribbean. This is the last canary in the coal mine, so to speak, so we're extremely excited. Actually, the scientists are even more excited because it's tropical waters, so they get to go in thin suits rather than dry suits. And it allows for us to explore an area that has been resistant to some of the effects of humanity. And the storytelling. The storytelling aspect is, I keep saying this, I know, but no matter how much technology and science we throw at things, if we don't communicate to the general public who will never get a chance to see what's below the blue veneer, the importance, the intrinsic value, the love, the campfire story, to bring them in as part of the solution, we will never, ever be able to get anywhere with the challenges that we have. I cannot emphasize that enough. Weaving human stories into the new traditional media, film, social, etc., as well as new media, virtual, augmented reality, and place-based entertainment are, of course, paramount to doing this. And, of course, live streaming, like Skype in the Clouds, which is now Zoom, of course. The ocean never had a voice, not since the advent of my grandfather of Attenborough, maybe Shark Week, once in a while, and the occasional movie like My Octopus Teacher. These are fundamentally important opportunities. And we have huge opportunity for us, and I know I keep saying this, but space and inner space are symbiotic, and they are cousins. I will finish this because I know I'm running a little bit long, about 3 minutes, so I apologize, my French verbosity. But we can fully believe that we can amplify the synergies in science and R&D education and outreach through this kind of platform and help others who need to tell their stories to be able to connect with the world, their importance of their discoveries, of their breakthroughs, to be able to not only innovate, but to implement. The time for discussion is over. The time for implementation is now. And with that, I will finish by saying that we stand on the shoulders of pioneering giants. My grandfather used to say, people protect what they love what they understand what they are taught. And his goal and what he did was be able to bring oceans to the world, or at least to living rooms. Back when things were, the TV, you know what TVs are? I know we're riveted to these things these days. My goal is to bring the world to the ocean and to be a big part of that global effort to keep alive and healthy the future for our generations so that they can enjoy what we have taken for granted. And I will finish by one more quote from Jacques, which was, "For most of man's history, we fought nature in order to survive. In this century, we're realizing that in order to survive, we must protect it." How can we protect what we don't know? Be it space or inner space, we must push the boundaries of the known, and we must brave the uncertainties for a better future, for a better humanity, and for all of you to shepherd the next generation of explorers. So, with that said, I thank you very much for your time. Fantastic. Thank you, GLEX. Thank you for this opportunity. Merci.